Tomorrow, we're trying to get as many cities around the world running with these Twitter dev community meetups so that we can continue to bring Twitter developer products to a bigger community. So that's really it for me at this very moment, although very shortly you're going to see me again. I want to introduce Giorgio, who is our organizer for the meetup, and I'm really excited, since this is just the beginning, I can't wait to see what Giorgio's going to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Welcome, everybody. I think that we know each other. I want to say that this is the first event. I was saying the first mobile thing. the first Twitter event from outside San Francisco, and we're very excited. That's a great community. That's a great opportunity. The main focus and goal of these events will be to expose you to code. Which code? Twitter, of course, and whatever. In fact, today we have Mike that will speak about Ionic and Angular 2. And that's the feeling, that's the idea. Contribute, give us ideas, help us to grow it. It's a different mood, it's a different format, and it's not owned by Twitter, it's owned by us. So let's clap our hands to Twitter, because they did a great job also tonight for this event. Cool. So tonight we have continuous reproducible delivery with FASTLANE with Andrea. And the pronunciation of your surname, it's Falcone, not Falconi. Just
someone who's actually Italian.
Come on, it's the only time that I can correct someone. We have Ionic 2 and Angular 2 with Mike Hartington, yes, you see it. And then evolving your mobile game idea with Fabric. We have Matthew Willis and Constantine, thank you. So, after the first two talks, we'll do again a short break to get some other beer, potentially some other food, talk and interact with each other. And now, please, let's welcome Andrea Falcone.
Oh, hey, me again. I need 2 minutes to get my own computer set up here, because of course, why would we have done the demo slides on some other computer? Let's see what we got going on. Ooh, Twitter, perfect. Let's get this going here. What is Twitter? I'm going to do this as slow as possibly can.
It's time for your joke.
Oh yeah, anybody got any jokes? Oh, there's magic checkbox. Sweet. This is gonna go. Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, now we're ready to rock and roll. All right, quick poll by show of hands. Who would like 2 hours every week back in your pocket, back for you? There's some of you that wouldn't, and I will take your 2 hours. Everybody else, I'm going to give you 2 hours. This sounds a little bit crazy, but it's not. So, as I've been introduced as Andrea Falcone, it's true. I'm going to share with you FASTLANE and how you can supercharge your app release using FASTLANE. This is an Android and an iOS tool that I'm going to talk about, so please don't be scared away. Some of my examples jump back and forth between Android and iOS, and I don't want to alienate anyone when I start talking about provisioning profiles or when I talk about Google Play. I'm talking to everyone, and the processes are pretty similar. All right. So yeah, a little bit more about me. I do work here at Twitter, and I'm a software engineer. I work on FASTLANE and on Fabric. Has anybody heard of either of those? Who's heard of FASTLANE? Sweet. And Fabric? All right, great. So some of the things that I talk about tonight, not going to be new to you. All right, so when's the last time that you heard one of these phrases? Yep, somebody's on vacation, we can't do the release because only that person knows how to do it right. Or our provisioning profiles don't have all the devices. People can't use our app. The build is broken. Sorry, we can't get out that bug fix or that really cool feature. CI is red. Sorry. we need the latest screenshots. Somebody comes up to you and says, can I have the latest screenshots of that really cool feature that you just see? Like, here I go. Let me take all 250 screenshots. And this last one, it cuts really deep. That bug fix, it's important, but it's not important enough for me to do a release. It's just too hard. So those are some things that we might say as app developers. And there are a lot of problems that we face. We as engineers here at Twitter, we run into them as well, and so we're deeply familiar with how hard some of these problems can be and how tricky getting these right can be. So we came up with a series of tools called FASTLANE, which aims to solve a lot of the problems that mobile developers run into. Oh.
There's so many.
There's a lot of problems. Hey, okay, great. Slides, also a problem. Keynote is not one of my core competencies. So what is FASTLANE? FASTLANE is a set of connected tools that are run from the command line that allow you to automate your entire build, test, and deploy or release cycle. It's the easiest way to save time and to democratize the building of your app. And what I mean by that is it's not any one person on your team who's holding all the knowledge of how to build and release. You're going to take this knowledge out of the brain and put it in source control where it belongs so that anyone on your team is able to build and release. And it's open source, meaning it can be extensible for your exact needs, or you can contribute back to our really awesome community if you've got something great that you think other app developers would need. So again, it's really powerful, prevents human error, keeps that esoteric knowledge out of that one person's brain. You can string all of your actions together to make a reproducible build. So every single time you're getting the build right. And the outputs are chainable from one tool to the next. So you'll see in my demonstration in a few minutes, we're going to do something that makes a thing, and it's going to pass that thing on to the next tool, and that tool's going to make a thing, it's going to pass that on to the next tool. So they all know about each other and are aware of the environment that they're operating in. And it's reusable. You do the work once, and you can keep building over and over again, which is really the important part, because you don't just release an app one time. So I don't have time to cover all the FASTLANE tools and all the use cases today, but I'm going to cover two really important problems, and these are probably things that you have run into, or not problems, they're use cases. So I'm going to talk about beta deployments and releasing an app to either Play Store or App Store. All right, so beta deployments. So here's an example. The CEO or someone super important at your company comes up to you and says, can I get the latest beta build on my phone? And they're like shoving their iPhone in your face. Like, yeah, not by magic. Let me help you get that build on your phone. Can you make sure that every single engineer on your team could get them the latest beta build? And could they do it on their first day? If you do it manually, talking to my phone. If you do it manually, these are the steps that you need to go through in order to do a beta deployment. Bump that version, make sure that it's stored in Git, make sure that your provisioning profile is correct, actually do the build, export either your APK or your IPA, upload it somewhere so that it can be distributed, write the release notes so that people actually know what's in your latest build, and then you can finally send it out. Can you do this all in a single command today? The answer for most people is probably no. It's probably somewhere between, I don't know, 4 and 8 distinct steps that you're going to end up doing. But with FASTLANE, you can, with a single command. Hold on. Before we get going, has anybody ever seen this nice dialogue in Xcode before? Yeah, iOS developers cringe, Android developers rejoice. You've never seen this, and you won't have to. The point here is that code signing is really hard. I'm going to talk a little bit about what that is and why it's hard for iOS developers and how FASTLANE can help you. Again, if you're an Android developer, just rejoice. Do this, drink a beer. I'll be over with this in a minute. All right, so how can you build and sign your app from the command line? Well, here are the steps that you're going to need to go through. First, you need to make sure you have a code signing certificate with the correct code signing identities. You need to have a provisioning profile. that is using that correct code setting identity. Then you can build and sign your app, and finally end up with a signed API. But FASTLANE has tools that will take care of these for you. So you can use CERT to generate brand new signing certificates. You can use SCI to download or create new signing provisioning profiles. Jim, a tool that does all the heavy lifting to build your app. The names are crazy, I'm sorry.
No.
And finally, you have a signed API. So, how does it look? You enter those 3 commands. Again, this is a command line tool. You start, you say Jim. But, so these look really simple, right? You're just like, I can't just with one command in my own project just build something using the word Jim. You can. We try to provide same defaults, so we're going to look for the workspace, look for all the things that we think are the default values, or identify the important information from your project. And if we don't, we'll ask you about it. If we can't find your bundle identifier or other things that you're going to need for this process, we'll ask you about them. So it's 3 commands, but I said you could do it with 1. So I'm going to show you how to do it with 1 command. So FASTLANE uses its sort of configuration file that's called a fast file. It's basic Ruby syntax, but looking at it, you probably won't even know it's Ruby because there's so little of it. They're just words. It executes these steps in order, so it does instruction 1, instruction 2, and they're dependent on each other. If the first one fails, if you can't get your code setting identities or your provisioning profile, we're not going to go ahead and build because it's really important that you have the first part. So it'll fail as soon as it can. Great. So this is an example fast file. You'll see we have this term called lanes. Some of the terminology is based around driving fast in a lane. Not all the things, but the metaphor is loose. It's there. So our lane that we're going to define as beta is going to do the following steps. So it's going to gym. It's going to upload to Crashlytics for beta distribution. You could also upload to a number of other beta distribution services, Hockey, TestFlight, Google Play. There's lots of them. And if we don't have what you need, you can build it because it's open source. And then we're going to post a message into Slack or your team's communication mechanism of preference and let everybody know that the beta has been submitted. So I've got my file. Let's see if I can handle all the steps that I talked about earlier. So let's go back to our initial goal. We wanted to do all these 8 things. So let's turn this into a little bit of code. All right, so we'll increment the version, we'll make sure that's stored in Git, and we're going to push right to Git. So you can use FASTLANE to do all of these things. It's not just building your app, it's integrating with sort of the tools that you use as an app developer. And it's integrating with Git. It's integrating with Apple generic versioning. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is those things that I mentioned before for actually building. You're going to start assign Jim. They're going to pass all the values that they generate from one tool to the next. And then we're going to send something to Crashlytics and post a message in Slack. All right. So I've got my lane. How does Crashlytics know how to find the build that we just built? I keep saying this, but I want to reiterate the point that I just wrote Crashlytics. I didn't say Crashlytics upload this IPA from over here. It knows because it's working in conjunction through environment variables with the other tools. The other tool says, hey, my output is this file, this IPA over here. Crashlytics says, hey, is there an IPA over here? Look, there is, I'm going to upload it. Great. All right, there's our lane beta. Are we ready to run our beta lane? I am. So this is what we do. Type in FASTLANE beta. So lane, FASTLANE, name of the lane. Perfect. Now, back to our scenario from earlier. Anybody can run this. Anybody could type these commands. As long as they've checked out your Git repo and they've installed FASTLANE, anybody can distribute your beta now. Your new guy on his first day can distribute the beta. So, fantastic. Let's say we want to do a release to the App Store. I'm going to show a quick GIF, and it does go by pretty quick. The thing's going to be scrolling. I'm going to try to talk about what it's doing as it's doing it. But this is running through a real-world example of actually using FASTLANE to do a release. So sped up a little bit for effect, just so you can see all the things that it does. But in seconds, you'll be able to see we're using Match, which is a tool that handles all provisioning profile things. It stores your provisioning profile and other credentials in Git, which is not necessarily right for every team, but it does mean that individual developers don't have to manage their own provisioning profiles. And then it did gem, so it built and sent a build off to Crashlytics. So the time is down here on the bottom. I don't know if you can see it, but the total time that it ran was 12 seconds. It built and beta distributed something in 12 seconds. If I asked you to do a build right now and distribute it to me, could you beta distribute me a build in 12 seconds with your own tools? Yeah. Probably not. So that's an example of how we do it. Let's move on to release day. We are ready to go. This is super exciting. You want to get out your new feature, the fruits of your labor, get them into the hands of your customers so that they can try out your new things, be really excited about them too. So why do we spend so much time actually doing the release? You spend a week or a month writing code, and then you spend some of that time, you spend a day or a week actually doing a release for a lot of people because it's so dang complicated. It doesn't have to be such a bespoke process that you have to train someone how to do. So let's reduce that barrier. Let's make sure everybody on your team can do a release. And it's really simple with FASTLANE. So I mentioned screenshots before. I said, ugh, all 250 screenshots. And what I was talking about is when you release a new app to the App Store, and you've got some new features, or you're supporting a new language, or a new device has come out, you're going to need to generate new screenshots to upload along with your app. And you have to do this every time, theoretically, if you want to stay up to date, although lots of folks don't because it's such a pain. So, to give you an idea, 10 languages, which is not too much for an app to support, 5 device types, and only 5 screenshots. I'm sure your app probably has more than 5 different screens in it. That would generate 250 screenshots in combination there. It's going to take forever to generate those, to keep them organized, and to upload them. Who has time for that? I don't. So what you can use is our tool called Snapshot. It's a FASTLANE tool for iOS, and it works using UI test automation framework. So you write your simple tests, you use the methods to jump around inside of your application, pulling up all the screens or causing the behaviors that you want to, folks to see in screenshots, and then you just call snapshot, give it a name, and it's going to save that screenshots to disk. So don't want to alienate those Android folks. But first we're going to do a demo of iOS. Let's see how it looks in action. Whoop. What's going on here? There we go. Now it's running. All right, so you enter snapshot on the command line, and it's going to automatically detect your project settings. So again, I didn't have to give it any parameters. It's going to just start running my tests. It's really great because you can run it in the background. So you can be off doing other things like preparing those release notes, spell checking them, running them by somebody else to make sure that you've gotten all the important stuff while your computer is off generating your screenshots for you. Oh God, don't worry, I didn't spill any of my laptop. But I did change it. Having a good day. So once that's all done, you can use a tool called Deliver to upload those screenshots directly to iTunesConnect, and they'll get slotted into the correct buckets for the language and the device type, so that when people are browsing your app on the App Store, they're able to see the screenshots that matter most to them. Great, okay. Android folks, finally, I told you there was a lot of pain in iOS. So in Android, we have a similar tool called Screen Grab. It plugs into your espresso tests, and there's very minimal setup. So you use espresso commands to poke around your app, click on buttons, navigate, type in text, whatever it is you want to do to generate the best screenshots that show off your app in the most compelling way. And then you do screen grab. .screenshot, give it a name. It's going to save those files onto the phone. When screen grab completes, it's going to pull all those off the phone. It's going to put them in the correct directories so that you can thread them through into the tool to upload them to Google Play, which is called Supply. They're sorted by locale. They're sorted by device type, so that they go directly to where they need to go. And you don't have to worry about dragging and dropping and finding, is that a tablet screenshot? Is that just a big phone? All right. Great. This is a super fast GIF, but it's going to. I'm going to talk really quickly to tell you what it does. So it's going to install the APK and the test APK on your device to start running your tests. It's going to connect to an emulator or device that you've specified over USB. It's going to switch locales on the device programmatically. Ooh, it's going to loop on me. And it's going to run all of your tests in every locale that you've specified. It's going to pull all the screenshots off and then open them up and show you, see if I can pause at the right time, to show you a beautiful document displaying all of your screenshots. Cool. Okay. We've buttoned up our release. We got our pesky screenshots and our release notes all together, but our customers still don't have our app because we've been playing around with these tools. Let's face it. iTunesConnect and the Play Console are powerful when you're using them for submissions, but there's a steep learning curve when you're looking at all the checkboxes and drop-downs and tabs to figure out what you need to do. So once you've uploaded your first APK to Google Play, it's really hard to know what the next step that you're actually supposed to do is. How do I get my app out there? Information is hidden in these different dialogues. This little box down the bottom, these are the release notes that your users are going to see, but it's hidden in the bottom of a tiny box that you have to click on. You have to click on a button to get here, and you need to know to switch languages in order to make sure your release notes are properly localized. Giant pain. People get it wrong. They don't update them because it's hard, so you never know what's actually new. You go into Google Play and you're like, what's new? Bug fixes for this last 5 releases. Great. You hit submit or publish. Why can't I publish? Well, here's a host of reasons. You can't publish an app to Google Play without all of these things. Like a content rating, what? I need 2 non-Android TV screenshots? Like, you need all this stuff to complete your listing. And if you want to be up to date, like I said, you've got to do this every time you push out a release. You've got to update these things because they can change. Let's take a peek in iTunesConnect just to get an idea of if that's any nicer. It's not. You need to fill out all of these little bits and bobs, and they're hidden. They're hidden in little buttons. There's little drop downs to change the values. FASTLANE can bring organization to this release process. So how do we make it easier? What if we just did a FASTLANE release? So we're going to get through all of those tens of checkboxes and image uploads and all the other things that you need to do with this process. So this is the FASTLANE release command that I have dreamed up. We'll talk a little bit about what it's doing. So it's going to build and sign the IPA using Gym. As you can see, all the FASTLANE tools print out a little box with all the parameters, the inputs and outputs to them. These are all the things that you can configure, and you're going to see the default values that are going into them in case something doesn't turn out the way that you expected. All the tools are printing out their command line output, so you know what's happening. You know what commands are being run under the hood, and you can see the output from all of those commands. So we use Xcode build to actually do the building inside of Gym. You're able to see the full output from it, so you know what it's doing. When there's an error message, you're able to understand. So let's see. Again, these are the pain points that you as a mobile developer face every day, all right? And we've built tools to solve those for Android and for iOS. So how do you get started with FASTLANE? It's super easy. It's our open source Ruby project, but there's a gem. You can just gem install FASTLANE, and then any person on your team is able to do a release once they've got FASTLANE installed. How does it work? So I mentioned we use Xcode build under the hood. We wrap all the tools that you know and love. Xcode build, Gradle, ADB. We use APIs for uploading to Google Play and to iTunesConnect in the dev portal. When you log into FASTLANE, you're storing your credentials in the keychain so that it's secure and we're able to repeatedly run your build without you having to log in every time if you don't want to. And the tools are configurable and portable. Like I said, you pick up your FAST file, put it in source control, and it's there when you need it. So deployment can happen from your machine, it can happen from your teammate's machine, it can happen from CI, one button. It can happen. FASTLANE has saved over 2 million developer hours in the last year. That's a lot of hours. If those of you who wanted your 2 hours back, I'm going to give it to you from this pool of hours. These are hours that you could have spent writing new features in your app, cleaning up that tech debt that I know you have, or spending your evenings and weekends hanging out with your family and friends, whatever you want to do with your time, instead of fighting the Android and iOS development and deployment tools. FASTLANE, completely open source and free. In addition to the main FASTLANE repo, there's also a repo of examples. So you're able to see how existing apps such as Firefox, Product Hunt, Wikipedia, how they're already using FASTLANE in their builds today. So you can see some of the custom things that they're doing, some of the vanilla setups that they're doing. Everybody's build is a little different, we know. But this is a good place for you to go and just understand what other product companies are doing. So Fabric, which is the team that's behind FASTLANE, we're really focused on making it easier for you to build better mobile apps. So if you want to get started with FASTLANE, go over to FASTLANE Tools, check out the tools, check out the repo. We'd love to hear how it works for you. Hit us up on Twitter. You can get me personally at Falcone. Also at Fabric, at Twitter Dev, at FASTLANE Tools. Find us on GitHub. Come talk to us about how FASTLANE is working for you. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrea Falcone.